Welcome to Pages from History, where the echoes of ancient battles still resonate across millennia. Today, we journey to a dusty plain where freedom itself hung in the balance. The Battle of Marathon stands as one of history's most incredible military victories against impossible odds. 10,000 Greeks faced 100,000 Persian warriors in a clash that would define civilization itself. Support our channel as we bring you this epic tale of courage, strategy, and sacrifice. Stay with us until the end to discover how this single day changed the world forever. First, the Persian shadow falls on Greece. The year 490 BCE found the Mediterranean world trembling beneath the shadow of an unstoppable empire. From the golden palaces of Persepolis, King Darius the Great commanded territories stretching from India to Egypt. His armies had crushed every opponent who dared resist his divine authority. Now his gaze turned westward toward the fragmented city-states of Greece. Athens had committed the unforgivable sin of supporting the Ionian revolt years earlier. Greek colonists in Asia Minor had dared to throw off Persian chains, and Athens had sent ships to aid them. Darius never forgave and never forgot such insults to his imperial majesty. He swore a solemn oath before his court that Athens would burn for its defiance. The Persian war machine began its methodical preparation with terrifying efficiency. Shipwrights constructed hundreds of vessels, while quartermasters stockpiled provisions for the vast expedition. Elite immortals sharpened their weapons alongside conscripted warriors from a dozen conquered nations. Persian cavalry trained their horses for the amphibious crossing that would bring them to Greek shores. Datis and Artapernes, two of Darius's most trusted generals, received command of this punitive expedition. Their orders were crystal clear: reduce Athens to ashes and enslave its population. The Persian fleet departed from Cilician ports with 600 warships blackening the horizon. Ore banks rose and fell in perfect rhythm as the armada swept across the Aegean Sea. Island communities watched in helpless terror as the Persian juggernaut passed their shores. Some submitted immediately, offering earth and water as tokens of submission to the great king. Eretrier on Euboea resisted, briefly but fell, after a week of brutal siege warfare. Its temples were torched, its citizens chained, destined for slavery in distant Persian territories. With Eretrier's smoke still visible across the channel, the Persian fleet turned toward Attica. The Bay of Marathon offered perfect landing beaches just 26 miles from Athens itself. Persian commanders chose this location with calculated precision and strategic brilliance. The plain provided ideal terrain for their feared cavalry to operate at devastating effectiveness. Second, Athens prepares for the ultimate test. Panic seized Athens when scouts reported the Persian landing at Marathon's coastal plain. Women wailed in the streets, while elders recalled tales of Persian cruelty from earlier conquests. The assembly convened an emergency session as citizens debated their impossible options. Some advocated immediate surrender, arguing that resistance meant only death and destruction. Others demanded they fight, insisting that freedom was worth any sacrifice. Miltiades, a general who had witnessed Persian warfare firsthand, rose to address the terrified crowd. His voice carried the weight of hard experience earned during years in Persian-controlled territories. He convinced the assembly that Athenian hoplites could triumph through superior discipline and tactics. The Athenian army consisted of 9,000 citizen soldiers who had trained since adolescence. Each hoplite owned bronze armor, a large round shield, and an 8-foot spear. They fought not as individuals, but as a collective unit called the phalanx. Overlapping shields created an impenetrable wall, while spear points projected toward the enemy. Athens sent desperate pleas to Sparta, their most powerful ally in the Greek world. A runner named Phidippides covered the 140 miles in just 2 days. The Spartan elders expressed sympathy, but cited religious law preventing military action during their sacred festival. They promised to send their legendary warriors after the moon reached its full phase. Athens could not wait for Spartan reinforcements that might arrive too late. Only tiny Plataea answered the call immediately, sending 1,000 brave soldiers. Miltiades led the combined force of 10,000 toward Marathon under cover of darkness. Bronze armor clinked softly as they marched through olive groves toward their destiny. They reached the hills overlooking Marathon Plain as dawn painted the eastern sky crimson. Below them stretched the Persian encampment, fires dotting the beach like fallen stars. Athenian soldiers stared down at the enemy multitude spreading across the coastal flatland. Tents numbered in the thousands, cavalry horses grazed in makeshift corrals, ships lined the shore. Fear gripped many hearts as they comprehended the overwhelming numbers arrayed against them. Veterans moved among the ranks, speaking quiet words of encouragement and resolve. Miltiades studied the terrain with the calculating eye of a seasoned military commander. He identified the strengths and weaknesses of both position and enemy deployment patterns. The Greeks would need to negate the Persian cavalry advantage through timing and positioning. They would have to close the distance quickly before arrows decimated their advancing ranks. Third, dawn of battle on Marathon Plain. 4 days passed in tense standoff as both armies waited for the perfect moment. The Persians expected the Greeks to retreat or surrender when faced with such overwhelming force. Miltiades refused to give ground, understanding that patience was now his greatest tactical weapon. He kept his army positioned in the hills, denying the Persians favorable cavalry terrain. Persian commanders grew frustrated with the Greek stubbornness and calculated their next move carefully. Intelligence suggested that Athens lay vulnerable with its army absent from the city walls. Didymus decided to split his forces, loading cavalry back onto ships for a direct assault on Athens. He believed the remaining infantry could easily handle the Greeks if they descended from their hills. Greek scouts detected the Persian cavalry boarding vessels as morning mist lifted from the shore. Miltiades recognized this as the golden opportunity he had waited for with disciplined patience. The 10 generals commanding Athens's tribal regiments voted on whether to attack immediately. 5 voted to wait for Spartan reinforcements, while 5 supported Miltiades' aggressive strategy. Callimachus, the supreme war archon, held the deciding vote that would determine Athens' fate. He studied Miltiades' intense expression and saw the certainty of a man who understood the moment. Callimachus cast his vote for immediate attack, placing full faith in Miltiades' tactical vision. Trumpets sounded across the Greek lines as hoplites formed their battle formation. Miltiades arranged his phalanx in an unusual extended line stretching nearly a mile wide. He deliberately weakened his center while strengthening both flanks with veteran soldiers. This unorthodox deployment confused Persian observers who expected traditional Greek massed formations. Miltiades knew exactly what he was doing based on his intimate knowledge of Persian tactics. Athenian soldiers checked their equipment one final time as priests performed hurried sacrifices. Blood from sacrificed goats darkened the earth as augurs interpreted the omens favorably. Callimachus took his traditional position on the right wing, where the most prestigious soldiers fought. Each tribal regiment occupied its assigned section, with officers calling out final encouragements. The Plataean contingent held the left flank, honored with this crucial defensive position. Their presence symbolized the unity possible among free Greek city-states facing common danger. Miltiades walked before the assembled ranks, his words carrying across the morning air. He reminded them they fought for their families, their freedom, their very existence as a people. Persian infantry formed up across the plain, confident in their numerical superiority and combat experience. They had conquered nations and toppled kingdoms from Egypt to Babylonia without serious defeat. Their wicker shields and lighter armor allowed greater mobility than the heavily armored Greeks possessed. Persian tactics relied on overwhelming archery volleys, followed by swift infantry advances. Fourth, the clash of empires. The signal came, and 10,000 Greek voices roared as one unified war cry. The phalanx surged forward at a dead run, covering the miles separating the armies. Persian archers released volley after volley into the charging mass of bronze and wood. Arrows darkened the sky, but many glanced off raised shields and angled armor plates. Some Greeks fell with arrows piercing exposed flesh at joints and gaps in armor protection. But the momentum carried forward as the phalanx maintained its cohesion despite casualties. The distance closed faster than Persian commanders anticipated, their archers given insufficient time. Greek spears crashed into Persian lines with the sound of thunder rolling across the plain. The Greek center, intentionally thinned, began to buckle under the Persian infantry's fierce counterattack. Persian warriors sensed victory as they pushed forward into the apparent gap in Greek defenses. But this was exactly what Miltiades had planned from the beginning of his tactical design. The strong Greek flanks held firm, while the center gave ground and controlled withdrawal. Persian soldiers advancing in the center found themselves drawn deeper into a deadly tactical trap. The Greek wings began to wheel inward like the closing jaws of some bronze predator. Callimachus fought in the front rank, his spear finding target after target with practiced precision. An arrow caught him in the throat, but still he fought on until strength finally left his body. The Greek flanks completed their encirclement, trapping thousands of Persian infantry in a killing zone. Panic replaced confidence as Persian warriors realized they were surrounded by bronze-clad death. The phalanx pushed inward from all sides, spears stabbing methodically through the compressed enemy mass. Persian soldiers trampled their own comrades in desperate attempts to escape the contracting noose. Those who broke free ran toward the beach where ships offered the only hope of survival. Greeks pursued them relentlessly, cutting down fleeing enemies who had thrown away their weapons. The battle transformed into a chaotic rout as disciplined warfare dissolved into desperate slaughter. Persian bodies littered the plains so thickly that later generations would speak of walking on corpses. Some Persians reached their ships and frantically pushed off from the blood-soaked shoreline. Greek warriors waded into surf, attempting to prevent the vessels from escaping their vengeance. A young Athenian named Cynaegirus grabbed a ship's stern with his bare hands to prevent its departure. A Persian axe severed his hand, but he seized the ship again until another blow ended his heroism. 7 Persian ships were captured before the remainder managed to escape the carnage and flee. The surviving fleet limped away across the Aegean, carrying news of impossible defeat to Darius. The sun reached its zenith over a field, transformed into a vision of absolute hell. 6,400 Persian bodies lay scattered across Marathon's blood-drenched earth. Athenian casualties numbered only 192 citizens who had given everything for freedom. Their names would be carved in marble and remembered in prayers for countless generations. 5th, victory and the race against time. But victory celebration would have to wait as Miltiades recognized an immediate desperate danger. The Persian fleet still carried thousands of soldiers and could reach Athens within hours. The city lay virtually undefended with its army, here at Marathon 26 miles distant. If the Persians arrived first, Athens would fall despite the miraculous battlefield triumph. Miltiades dispatched his fastest runner, Phidippides, to warn Athens of both victory and approaching danger. The exhausted messenger had just returned from Sparta, but accepted this final crucial mission. Phidippides stripped off his armor and began running the dusty road toward Athens with everything he had. Each stride carried the fate of his city. Each breath drew him closer to complete collapse. Meanwhile, the Athenian army began its own forced march, despite being utterly exhausted from battle. Bronze-clad hoplites jogged along the coast road under the merciless afternoon sun. Phidippides burst into Athens's agora, gasping out his message before collapsing in complete exhaustion. He managed to speak the word Nike, meaning victory, before his heart stopped from the superhuman effort. The Persian fleet appeared off Athens's coast, only to find the city walls now lined with armed defenders. The same blood-stained warriors who had defeated them at Marathon had somehow arrived first. Persian commanders recognized the futility of attempting an amphibious assault against prepared positions. Darius ordered his battered fleet to turn away from Athenian shores and sail back toward Asia. The invasion of Greece had failed spectacularly, despite every advantage of numbers and imperial resources. Athens had survived by the narrowest margin through courage, brilliant tactics, and incredible endurance. Across the Greek world, word spread of the impossible victory that had saved Western civilization. City-states that had trembled before Persian might now dare to hope that resistance was possible. Marathon proved that free citizens fighting for their homes could defeat professional imperial armies. The psychological impact resonated far beyond the actual casualty figures or territorial changes. Young men across Greece heard the story of Marathon and dreamed of their own heroic glory. Among them was a boy named Themistocles who would one day lead Athens to even greater victories. The Persian Empire would return in greater force 10 years later under Darius' son Xerxes. But Marathon had bought precious time for Greece to prepare and unite against the threat. The battlefield became sacred ground where Athenians erected a burial mound over their fallen heroes. Visitors still walk that ancient site today, feeling the weight of history beneath their feet. Miltiades lived only briefly to enjoy his triumph before political enemies turned Athens against him. But his tactical brilliance at Marathon secured his immortal place in history's greatest commanders. The Marathon race became an Olympic event honoring Phidippides' legendary run and ultimate sacrifice. Every athlete who completes that distance follows literally in the footsteps of ancient heroism. The Battle of Marathon stands as testament to what courage and brilliant leadership can achieve against overwhelming odds. 10,000 Greeks proved that free people fighting for their existence possess strength that empires cannot match. This single day's combat shaped Western civilization's future and preserved democracy's fragile flame when darkness threatened. The ripples from Marathon's plain still reach us across 25 centuries of human history. If you enjoyed this journey to ancient Greece's finest hour, please support Pages from History with your like and subscription. Share this story with others who appreciate how the past shaped our present and will guide our future. Comment below with your thoughts on this incredible military achievement and what lessons it holds for our modern world. Join us next time as Pages from History continues bringing the ancient world to life through cinematic storytelling.